Hello everyone, you are on the channel Who Created It and How? Today, we're diving deep into something we use every single day, but probably never think about, the calendar. How did we end up with this system of days, weeks, and months? And who was the genius who first came up with it? Get ready, because the story is way more fascinating than you might think. It's a tale of ancient civilizations, brilliant astronomers, and a little bit of political drama. So, who do we thank for our first calendar? The answer isn't a single person, but a civilization, the ancient Egyptians. Around 3100 BC, the Egyptians were masters of observation. Their entire existence revolved around the Nile River. Every year, like clockwork, the Nile would flood, bringing fertile silt that made their agriculture possible. It was the lifeblood of their civilization. But these floods could also be destructive if they weren't prepared. So, predicting when the flood would arrive was a matter of life and death. This urgent need for prediction is what sparked the invention of the world's first known solar calendar. The Egyptian priests, who were also the astronomers of their time, noticed a recurring pattern. They saw that the annual flooding of the Nile always happened shortly after a specific star, which we know today as Sirius, appeared on the eastern horizon, just before sunrise. This event is called the heliacal rising of Sirius. They meticulously counted the days between one rising of Sirius and the next, and they came up with a number, 365 days. It was an astonishingly accurate calculation for that era. Based on this discovery, they created a calendar with 365 days. They divided the year into 12 months, and each month had 30 days. This gives you 360 days, right? So what about the extra 5 days? The Egyptians were clever. They added 5 special days at the end of the year, which were dedicated to festivals celebrating the birthdays of their 5 main gods: Osiris, Horus, Set, Isis, and Nephthys. These weren't part of any month. They were just extra days tacked on to make the math work and keep the calendar aligned with the seasons. This Egyptian calendar was a huge leap forward. Before this, many cultures like the Babylonians used lunar calendars, which were based on the cycles of the moon. A lunar month is about 29.5 days, so a year of 12 lunar months is only about 354 days long. This is about 11 days shorter than the solar year, the time it takes the Earth to orbit the Sun. This meant their calendars would quickly fall out of sync with the seasons. Imagine your summer festival suddenly happening in the middle of winter. The Egyptians, with their 365-day solar calendar, had a much more stable and reliable system for agriculture, religious ceremonies, and civil administration. But the Egyptian calendar wasn't perfect. The actual solar year is about 365.25 days long. That extra quarter of a day might not seem like much, but over time, it adds up. Every 4 years, the Egyptian calendar would be off by a full day. Over a century, it would be off by almost a month. The Egyptians were aware of this discrepancy, but for a long time, they didn't officially change their calendar. Tradition was incredibly important, and altering the divine order was a big deal. Now let's jump forward a few thousand years to ancient Rome. The Romans initially used a very confusing calendar that was likely borrowed from the Greeks. It had only 10 months and about 304 days. The year started in March, which is why September, October, November, and December have names derived from the Latin numbers for 7, 8, 9, and 10. It was a complete mess. The remaining winter days were just an unnamed, unorganized period. Later, they added January and February, but the length of the months was inconsistent, and the priests in charge, the pontiffs, often manipulated the calendar for political gain. They could lengthen a year to keep their allies in office, or shorten it to oust their rivals. Enter Julius Caesar. In 46 BC, Caesar, with the help of the Alexandrian astronomer Sosigenes, decided to fix this chaotic system once and for all. He had spent time in Egypt and was impressed by their solar calendar, so he decided to adopt a similar system for Rome. This was the birth of the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar was based on the Egyptian model of 365 days. But Caesar and Sosigenes made one crucial improvement to solve that quarter-day problem. They introduced the concept of a leap year. Every 4 years, an extra day would be added to the calendar to keep it aligned with the solar year. This extra day was added to February. Why February? Because it was the last month of the original Roman year. And to get the calendar back on track after years of chaos, Caesar had to make the year 46 BC incredibly long. It lasted for 445 days and became known as the Year of Confusion. It was a necessary reset to get everyone on the same page. The Julian calendar was a massive success. It was so accurate and practical that it spread throughout the Roman Empire and eventually most of the Western world. For over 1600 years, this was the standard. It was the calendar used throughout the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the Age of Exploration. It's the calendar that shaped much of our history as we know it. But even the Julian calendar had a tiny flaw. Remember how the solar year is about 365 and a quarter days? Well, about is the key word. The true length of a solar year is actually 365.22425 days. The Julian calendar's year, with its leap year rule, averaged 365 days. This is a very small difference, just about 11 minutes per year. But over centuries, those 11 minutes started to add up. By the 16th century, the Julian calendar was off by about 10 days. This became a serious problem, especially for the Catholic Church. The date of Easter, one of the most important Christian holidays, is calculated based on the spring equinox. With the calendar drifting, the equinox was happening 10 days earlier than the calendar said it should. Easter was slowly drifting away from its traditional springtime spot. So in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII stepped in to fix the calendar once again. He assembled a commission of astronomers and mathematicians. They came up with a refined set of rules for leap years. The new rule was this: a year is a leap year if it's divisible by 4, unless it's a century year. Century years like 1700, 1800 or 1900 are only leap years if they are divisible by 400. So the year 2000 was a leap year, but 1900 was not. This tiny adjustment makes the average length of the calendar year much closer to the actual solar year, ensuring the calendar stays accurate for thousands of years. To correct for the 10 days that had already accumulated, Pope Gregory decreed that the day after October 4th, 1582 would be October 15th, 1582. 10 days were simply skipped. People went to bed on a Thursday and woke up on a Friday, but 10 days later. As you can imagine, this caused quite a bit of confusion and resistance. Catholic countries like Italy, Spain, and Portugal adopted the new Gregorian calendar immediately. But Protestant and Orthodox countries were suspicious of a decree from the Pope and resisted the change for a long time. Great Britain and its American colonies didn't switch until 1752. By then the calendar was off by 11 days. Russia didn't switch until after the Russian Revolution in 1918. This is why their October Revolution is celebrated in November in the Gregorian calendar. Different parts of the world were literally living on different dates for centuries. It's a great example of how science, religion, and politics can intertwine in unexpected ways. So, when we look at our calendar today, we're looking at a masterpiece of human ingenuity that has been refined over millennia. It started with the ancient Egyptians and their life-giving river. It was standardized by a Roman dictator, Julius Caesar, and it was perfected by a pope to keep a holy festival in its proper season. It's a collaborative invention built on centuries of observation, mathematics, and a relentless human drive to understand and organize our world and our place in the cosmos. Every time you check the date, make a plan, or celebrate a birthday, you're participating in a tradition that connects you directly to the astronomers on the banks of the Nile, the politicians in the Roman Forum, and the mathematicians in the Vatican. It's not just a grid of numbers on a page or a screen, it's a living piece of human history. What do you think is the most interesting part of this story? Let me know in the comments below. It's truly amazing how something so fundamental to our daily lives has such a rich and complex history. Thanks for joining us on Who Created It and How. If you enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next exploration. See you in the next video,